So Moistcritical, especially by his own definition, but actually, literally, is showing pornography to children, which is fucking crazy. So I just really thought about Moistcritical, and I was like, man, I wonder if he's given any bad political takes recently. So I went to his channel. Sure enough, 3 hours after he posted it, I found a video called "This is Inexcusable." So the video is about in Miami Beach, Florida. On behalf of the mayor, cops went to the home of a woman who was criticizing him. I agree with his take at the end that this is against the First Amendment rights, but you don't really need a high IQ to have that take. Now, what I do have an issue with is his details in his discussion about this situation. Listen to this first clip here.
There have been people that are trying to spin some kind of false narrative and presenting baloney as though it's facts. And it's people saying shit like, this is what happens when you elect a Democrat. Democrat Stephen Miner did this. When that's just not true, any drooling goober right now can just go to Google, activate a few neurons, type in Stephen Miner's name, and find out he's not a Democrat. Stephen Miner is actually a former Republican who switched to no party affiliation in 2018. It seems like he made that switch shortly after a scandal came to light. But regardless, he is not a Democrat, never has been. And from what I've read, to this day, prefers to be associated as more of a Republican than anything, just based on what I've been reading. But he was even a former Republican before that no-party switch, so I don't know where this idea that he's a Democrat is coming from, other than just people spreading misinformation.
I thought, I'm a drooling goober who can activate a few neurons, and I decided to look up the information too. And I found that Stephen Miner was a Democrat back in 2007. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why, man? That was 2 decades ago. That's surely irrelevant by now. And you're right. But if Moistcritical had that same information, he would have said the exact same thing. But he didn't say that. He said that he'd never been a Democrat as far as he knew. And I found that information after 2 minutes of research, which tells me Moistcritical did less than 2 minutes of research. Second thing he said within that clip was he left the party due to a scandal. I could not find any scandal that he was referring to. But what I did find was in Florida, people tend to leave their parties when they're running for election to increase their chances of winning the election, which it seems to be the case of what Stephen Miner did. Going back to the Republican and Democrat thing, I don't know why he mentions it here, because it's really irrelevant to the topic at hand. I think he knows that his audience is probably more left-leaning, and he's trying to get an easy W. You might actually think that this is a Republican and Democrat thing at first glance, because the woman who the cops go to is a Democrat, and this mayor is a Republican, at least so as he says. But from my information that I found out that Stephen Miner is a Jew, which makes this whole situation make a lot more sense. See, in the post that the woman was criticizing him with, she was talking about Israel-Palestine. Now, I don't know why, or I do know why, but I can't say it. Jews in politics get very deranged and lose all senses when it comes to Israel versus Palestine. If you want an example of this, go to Ben Shapiro. Now, if Moistcritical has information, I don't think he could make any sense of it, and you would think it is worthless information. So this whole situation makes sense now, knowing that he's a Jew. So Jews within politics believe that if you do not support Israel, you are trying to genocide all the Jews. He saw that and said, oh my god, she's trying to genocide me because she doesn't agree that we should fight for Israel. So then he reports to the police, and the police actually said, alright, this is a threat, I guess. Maybe it was a Jewish officer too, who knows? I ain't looking that much into it. So now we have this situation. This is a situation that's a misuse of tools. Because this tool does need to exist, whether you like it or not. Just in case someone's like, I'm going to go genocide this church, and then police officers can do something about it because the person is dumb enough to post it. There's another clip here I want to talk about too with him.
Stephen Miner, which is this slimy bozo right here. By the way, I didn't purposefully choose an unflattering photo of Stephen. That's his Wikipedia photograph. He is just that unpleasant looking, I suppose. There's a quick read that succinctly puts Stephen Miner's tumultuous career in politics on display, just lays it in front of you.
Here's the problem with this part of the video. So first of all, he got that picture from Wikipedia. Now, the only thing on the guy's Wikipedia, at least at this time, was this situation with the woman and the situation the woman was referring to in her post. So whoever made these articles on Wikipedia probably doesn't like the guy. So him be like, this is just the picture of him on Wiki, don't blame me. Like, bro, come on. I know this is kind of like an autistic nitpick here, but still, dude. Secondly, with that, you shouldn't be making fun of people's looks as in your position. You're supposed to be the good guy. You're supposed to be the face. If you really want to do this, just put the picture up and let your comment section do the work for you. And lastly, I want to talk about someone's looks like that, especially since your nostril looks like it's had a few rounds in the glory hole. You also overall look like the guy who sits in a corner while a femboy fucks your wife. But also your girly ass hair, you fucking beta. Like, hear my voice. This is the voice of someone calling you a beta. You look like the guy that would be 98th in line to have sex with Lily Phillips. You always wearing a white shirt makes me think that you're trying to be the sixth black guy to fuck Piper Perry. The actual big picture with this clip here, out of ignoring my autistic nitpick with him making fun of people's looks, he's using Wikipedia as his source. Like, I can tell you all of his sources right away from this video. So he saw some clips online, he downloaded them and put them in the video. Then he did a Google search that gave him a Google AI response. By the way, Google AI response is the worst AI search engine there is. I looked a question up. It gave me an answer. I clicked on the sources. The sources had the exact opposite answer. And I also looked up something about a Survivor player. And it gave me like a Frankenstein of like 5 different black Survivor players, which is really fucked up and racist of the Google AI. And the third source is Wikipedia, which he should have learned in high school that Wikipedia is not a source you should be using. And if they got it from somewhere, especially if this is a recent topic, you should find an actual article rather than the Wikipedia page. Now, just like people want to see Obama's real birth certificate, I want to see Charlie's real high school diploma. Moving on to like past topics, something that happened about a year or two ago. The debate Moistcritical had with Sneeko. Now, if you know who Moistcritical is, you probably know about this situation. And I just want to let you know, I want to talk about the things around that situation rather than that situation. Because people never talk about it, and now I'm about to talk about it. Better late than never, I guess. So, essentially, to give you a rundown on what the situation was, Sneeko asked Moistcritical, do you believe children should be able to transition? And, like, take the pills and do the surgery? Moistcritical said yes. Now, here's the average response from a viewer and also the question being asked and answer being given.
Craziest takes I've ever heard.
Think that somebody can go through hormone therapy. Can they change their gender if they're a child?
I think that's totally fine as long as everyone is consenting.
No. Whoa! No. Well, kids can't consent, you fucking
This situation got so bad that Moistcritical had to make a video in response to it. This response video is actually what made me hate Moistcritical. It wasn't the debate. It wasn't what he said in debate. It specifically was this video. Let's hear what he has to say about the kids transitioning thing.
Which was my response to his question about kids transitioning. And the way he would pose that question would be by asking if I thought it was okay if kids who want to switch their gender go to the doctor and get their dick cut off. Is it okay if a 9-year-old goes to a doctor and gets their cock cut off right then and there? And when posed with that question, I replied with yes. And I've talked about this on stream many, many times now, and I'll talk about it again here. I thought he was talking in hyperbole. I thought he was just exaggerating, being over the top, talking about the entire subject of transitioning. I had no idea that any living, breathing human being actually thought that that's how transitioning works. Where you just go into a doctor saying, I feel like switching genders, and they lay you down on the operating table and just snip your whole fucking meat off. Because you literally cannot get that surgery unless you are 18. Like, you actually have to go out of your way to be that stupid on the topic than you would just spending a couple of seconds looking it up. There are very rare cases where someone under 18 has had that surgery performed. That's not common. So I really didn't think that someone could be so dumb on the topic. I thought he was just speaking in hyperbole.
So he makes like the 30-minute response video in all is like 90% of the time he's just calling Sneeko a retarded pedophile. Response there, which is actually, that part there is kind of funny because he's like keeps hyper focusing on the dick cutting off part. When in the clip I showed you, Sneeko didn't even ask the dick cutting off part. He asked like the normal HRT thing, which back when the debate happened, children as young as like 9 years old could take HRT, which is fucking crazy. The reason why this is actually so crazy is not actually specifically this belief by itself. The thing that's crazy is the rest of the debate. So the debate was about age of consent. Sneeko's opinion about age of consent, or at least the opinion he was representing here, was there should not be an age of consent because it should be only marriage. So it doesn't matter if the girl is 16 or 20, you can't have sex with her unless you're married to her. And that was his argument about there should not be an age of consent because the age of the person shouldn't matter. You should only have to be married to them. And Moistcritical took that as Sneeko wants to fuck 12-year-olds. Now let's listen to what Moistcritical said about it in his own response video.
So I entered into the Thunderdome and we started talking. I made it clear that I found his statements on the age of consent and children marrying adults being fucking hideous. Absolutely revolting. And then he started arguing about, well, what is a child? We must define a child, you know. It's not actually being under 18. It's all a bunch of hooey. And I really think if you have to start arguing about, well, what technically is a child, you're already way too far gone. Like, that is so fucking weird. And in no uncertain terms, multiple times throughout the debate, Sneeko says that he is okay with people that are aged 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 marrying adults that are 18 or older.
Here's a crazy thing. Let's hear their definitions of what an adult and what a child is.
Before we even get into, let's define these terms before we even get into this conversation. What is a child?
I would use the age of consent. Under 18 would be a kid in my eyes.
So a 17-year-old who's 364 days, that's a kid?
Yep, I'm gonna use very hard set terms. If it is under 18, even if it's 17, 364, that's still a kid.
Do you know what the definition of child is? Like, anybody watching this can Google it. You can Google it too. The definition of child is somebody who has not reached puberty yet. That's the definition.
Again, I don't think a 14-year-old can ever be physically mature.
Mm-hmm. Even though they literally can. Even though puberty actually defines that, it's fine.
I don't believe so. I was 14 once. But I actually had a mustache when I was 14. Would you have looked at me and said I was physically mature enough to get married?
If you were physically mature, if you were mature, yes, I would. Okay.
Really? When I was 14.
Yeah. If you were 14 and you were ready to go and you met another 14-year-old, yes, I would.
No. We're talking adults. You keep going back to that.
That is adult.
I met.
I told you my definition.
I
told you the definition.
Adult.
The definition. Okay. If you went through puberty, you're an adult. That's the definition of adult. So yes, if you're an adult and you had a mustache, you're ready to get married, fine. Okay.
Sneeko is 100% correct. Someone who is not reached puberty yet is what's considered a child. So Moistcritical in that sense is wrong. Now if you want to do, well, technically the age of consent is 18, well guess what? 18 is not the age of consent in a majority of the world. Looking at America itself, 2/3, but going by the number of states, about 2/3 of the country believe the age of consent should be 16. And then that last third is not even 18. It's a mix between 18 and 17. So in that sense, he's wrong. And then now when we speak about globally, what about the world? Looking at the world map at a glance with the age of consent, majority, like 2/3 of the world also say 16. with from like everywhere else from 9 to 22 minus 16 being that last remaining third of land. But Moistcritical is critically wrong about this. He is majorly wrong, and he's just arguing that the whole time, not understanding that someone under the age of 18 does not mean they're a child. And in fact, in society, we treat people under the age of 18 as adults all the time. Like, the most common form of this that you probably hear is when someone under the age of 18 murders someone and they get tried as an adult. An example of someone over the age of 18 being treated as a child, courts can overturn marriages because if the woman is deemed too retarded to be able to consent, they treat essentially like a child, they will actually overturn marriages. So being above the age of 18 does not necessarily mean you're not a child, and then being below the age of 18 does not necessarily mean you're not an adult. In fact, if we go by Moistcritical's definition, but actually accurate, he would believe that the age of consent should be 16. It's just crazy, because in his video, he says, just look it up, and like I said in the last one, when he says look something up, he's usually wrong about the information, and he needs to look it up himself. This video pissed me off, because, again, no one talked about this situation. And I got something even more crazy to show you. Hello, so I wanted to butt in here and essentially explain to you why Moistcritical is stupid for his belief that children should be allowed to go through transgender surgery. Having the belief itself, in my opinion, is not stupid. But when you take in what he believes about the age of consent for marriage and sex, now that's where it gets absolutely stupid. Because when it comes to marriage, if you get married, you can get a divorce. You can leave your significant other, despite what the Christians believe. Now, when it comes to sex, worst case scenario, you're a woman and you get pregnant and you carry out the baby full term, you can give up the baby for adoption, and then you can work out like any fat or whatever may happen during the pregnancy. But in terms of physical damage, it's very little, and most people don't care about it. But when it comes to the HRT alone, it can make you infertile after taking it for a while. So if the person decides, I want to get off it because HRT is not for me, they have permanent damage. And then the other scenario is you take HRT and you do think it's good for you. Now you have a different problem. Now you're taking HRT for the rest of your life. And I think most people, given the option to take medicine for the rest of your life or not take medicine for the rest of your life, I think they would choose the second option, obviously. So in terms of, damage at all, potential damage, there is more damage taking HRT, especially at a young age, or in general, to be honest with you, than either marriage or sex. But he's saying that someone is not mature enough to have sex or marriage at 16, but someone at the age of 10 is mature enough to be able to decide whether or not they should take HRT. The way I discovered Moistcritical was through a Nux Taku video. So if you don't know who Nux Taku is a guy who stole his avatar from a Sans from Undertale fan art, and he made a bunch of videos about hentai on YouTube. And this is where I actually discovered Moistcritical. So Moistcritical, Project Melody, and Nux Taku would do videos about hentai with each other. Now, why am I bringing this up? Well, it's simple. Within his videos, in the description of Nux Taku's videos, where they're showing hentai images that are censored, it says, disclaimer, this video and my entire channel is rated PG-13 and should not be viewed by anyone under the age of 13 without direct parental control, or direct parental consent. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because like I said, in the video, they're showing hentai images. They're showing pornography that's slightly censored. Which, if the video is made for people of 13 years or older, 13 through 17 is a child to Moistcritical. Which means he's technically breaking the law here with Nux Taku and Project Melody. You're not allowed to show minors minors obscene material. You're not allowed to show obscene material to minors under 18 U.S. Code 1470. In fact, within the code itself, it says specifically 16 years. So even this code says 16 is an adult and not 18, like Moistcritical is trying to say. So Moistcritical, especially by his own definition, but actually, literally, is showing pornography to children, which is fucking crazy. So by Moistcritical's own definition, showing pornography to children, and by the letter of the law, he is actually doing a criminal act. Not even by his own standards, but by the standards of the US, he is committing a criminal act. But I think these are questions Moistcritical should be forced to answer. If you like what you heard here, which you probably didn't because I have a horrible voice, please like and comment. Tell me what you think, because I'm sure there's other things in Moistcritical stuff that I don't know about that he's done. Please, if you can, try to get Moistcritical to watch this video live and have him respond to it. Other than that, Y-Man is out.